Good. International chef of mystery. Maybe, you never know. Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to all the people who have been with us before. Welcome to the people who have never been with us before. If you're watching right now, let us know where you're watching from. I'm always endlessly excited about who's tuning in from really all around the world. And welcome to the people in the future. Go with me on this one. This is going to be taped, so you can watch it in the future, and you can watch it again and again and again. So hello into the future. Strange, very romper roomy. I can see everybody out there. And I can also see, what's the 411? Not Mary J. Blige, who I saw on the CD. What's the 411? But Mary Eve Brown, clinical oncology dietitian and specialist at Johns Hopkins Kimmel Cancer Center. What's the 411 with you, young lady?
I am doing fabulous here near Baltimore. It's
Good.
83 degrees, chef. Perfect sunny day. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I mean, we have people, of course, in Florida. We are here in sunny Southern California. We're normally in Austin, Texas. But once it's triple digits, we don't like to melt. We like to escape and spend some time here with some of the farmer friends that I've known for over 2 decades. Who the heck am I? That's a good question. I heard someone's out there asking that. My name is Nathan Lyon. I am from Arlington, Virginia. I earned a health sciences degree from James Madison University with a public health minor. I moved to California where I completed a course to become a medical technician via UCLA Extension. Then I went to Le Cordon Bleu to become a chef. And then I started cooking on television. So that's really, I guess, and then I shaved my head because I was going bald. None of this will be possible as far as this sort of conversation, which I hope you have questions as the day goes on. This young voice right here.
Hello.
That is Sarah Foreman. When you're typing your questions in the comment box, Sarah will relay those questions to me or questions to Mary Eve Brown. and we'll move on from there. So it'll be this wonderful little dance, this little Olympic baton, very seasonal, Olympic baton, off to Mary Eve, back to Nathan, off to Sarah. All these things are possible.
Loretta says, hi, I'm here in California near Yosemite National Park. It's beautiful, 70 degrees, headed to 90.
Yay? Question mark? How's that? Yeah. Yeah, it's a cruel summer. Name that song. Yeah, should we get started? Yeah, I mean, why not, right? So today I'm talking about the whole baton dance thing. We will do I think we normally do four dishes today in such a short period of time. Know that you don't have to do all four. Know that you can do one at a time. Don't rush, don't go crazy. I may be doing a little dancing between a few of the dishes as we go on, but sort of, just sort of think about what you want to make, and don't have to write anything down because all this information for all the recipes will be available to you. And also for those of you that are registered today, something a little special at the end that I'll talk to you about. But for now, let's get started, shall we? What the heck is this? This is salmon, my friends. Alaskan salmon. It is gorgeous. I pulled it out of the refrigerator about a half an hour ago, so it'll be a little bit closer to room temperature. And I want to tell you a little story about this salmon and how I was able to make salmon perfect every single time. So seasoning is one of those things, a little off topic. Seasoning is one of those things that people aren't quite sure about. Do you season with salt ahead of time? Do you season it and then wash it off? Like, all these things are some of the questions I have pretty often, actually, from the interweb. What I like to do is season the salmon what's called a dry brine. And that is a term you've probably heard around Thanksgiving. People dry brine their turkeys and it turns out perfect. We're going to dry brine this salmon and let it sit and sort of soak in that seasoning for about 15 minutes. That's all it takes. So what I have in this bowl right here is a teaspoon of granulated sugar. I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of kosher salt, not iodized salt, but kosher salt, right? There's that. I'm going to mix it together. And much like when you add salt to your pasta water, you're not drinking all of that salt. So this is just a very light amount of salt and sugar just to get some really good seasoning on this. And what I'm going to do is just coat this beauty in this mixture. You don't have to do the skin side. You don't have to put it on its side. You just go ahead and coat just this whole skin top or flesh top. And then I'm going to put this to the side. All right, what's going to happen is the salt and the sugar is going to pull moisture out of the salmon, but at the same time, salmon's going to pull in some of that seasoning. It's going to be perfect. So then we just neglect it. This is amazing cuisine via neglect. Think about anything else in life where you just neglect it and it gets better. Not orchids, I'll tell you that much. All right. So the salmon.
We can see Mary Eve's beautiful orchids on display.
The salmon is off to the side. We're just going to forget about that. So about 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to let that do its thing. Moving on, we are literally on to the second thing that we're going to make. We're going to make a lovely creamy fennel and potato soup. It's going to have some dill, fennel fronds, maybe some cheddar cheese. That sounds really good. So I'm going to start with this pot. I already have 2 cups of water. That's it. This is just water, 2 cups. To that, I always like to add a little bit of flavor. I always have this Better Than Bouillon organic vegetable stock. You can use chicken stock. The reason I've done it this way, rather than getting a separate bowl and then adding 2 cups of water and then like a little scoop of this stuff, is then I have to wash that bowl. Why not just put everything in here? And it's going to come to a simmer, so I don't have to worry about stirring it in. So that's pretty easy, right? So have a pot, 2 cups of water.
I know they make low sodium of those. Mary Eve, do we need to look for low sodium for these types
It's
of
such a small amount, it shouldn't be a worry.
Okay.
Fantastic.
What was the flavor, chef? I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's just vegetable. I think it may be roasted vegetable. This is
Organic, I
seasoned
think.
vegetable base, organic, carrots, celery, onions, tomatoes, so on and so forth.
Awesome.
I think it's one of the best. If you've been with us before, you've heard me sort of stammer on about those big box stocks. I don't really like the flavor of those, but if you found the one that you really like and it works for you, of course, by all means, stay with that. Okay, This just takes up a little bit less space than those big box stocks. And they don't weigh as much either, okay? So water, a little bit of stock, whatever broth that you have, 2 cups. To this, I'm gonna add this whole thing, just throw it in. Absolutely. And you could, but no, don't do that, all right? So this is fennel. If you've never had fennel before, I suggest you try it. I think it's really lovely. It has
Please.
texture, right? Isn't it so good? It has a texture of like a celery, but the smell and the flavor is a little bit anisey. I don't want to say, it's like, I don't want to say licorice because it's a little bit different for me, but it's anise. It's really sweet. It's lovely. It's light. And we're going to save this stuff. These are the fennel fronds. This is a lovely garnish on top of fish, which we do have, and on top of soup. And you can also make a homemade vegetable stock. There's no need to throw this stuff away because you've already paid for it. Okay, lovely, lovely nutrition in there. This
It's
is
also a digestive aid. Fennel has some digestive aid property to it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I really love fennel, and I think because it's on offer all times of the year, you really can't go wrong. It's not one of these vegetables that you have to worry about using the day that you receive it, that you get it, like asparagus, you would use the day that you get it. Fennel's a little bit more hardy than that, so you just go ahead and keep it in the original container, but use it within 4 or 5 days. Of course, you want to make sure that the vegetables are as fresh as possible. One thing I don't have here, which you've seen me use before,
It's right there.
that Sarah already put out, that I do have here. Really, I need new glasses because these aren't strong enough. Bench scraper, you've seen me use this before, highly recommend it. It doesn't cost very much money and it really makes quick work of making this cutting board nice and clean again, okay?
So let me know what your next steps are to get the soup going, and then I'll ask Mary Eve a question.
Okay, great. So next steps, great time to ask Mary Eve a question. So I'm gonna take half a pound of potatoes. These are Yukon Gold potatoes. You can use russet potatoes. I like Yukon Gold, but either one works fine. I'm gonna peel these, chop them up willy-nilly, and they'll go in right after the fennel. Great question.
With some time and then start.
Oh,
putting-
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so question for Mary Eve. Since my gastrectomy almost 1 year ago, I have been doing well, but I cannot eat any raw greens. They never digest. I know how important greens are for my health and cancer survivorship. Are you able to give me any other vegetables that can provide the same nutrition as greens?
Yeah, so greens are lovely, but they are hard to digest in people who have had gastrectomy or even partial gastrectomy. But there is similar nutrition in other vegetables. So folic acid is in there, iron is in there, calcium is in there, vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D. So when you do a variety of different vegetables, you're also going to get the same match. And we're talking about fall. So I want people to think about winter squash and pumpkin. Both of those also provide the same kind of nutrition that are in leafy greens. Carotenoids is the other phytonutrient that's in greens. It's also in things that are orange. And I think pumpkin is something we don't use very often. So I want people to think about maybe making a pumpkin soup or a sweet potato and pumpkin roast, or any of those kinds of things. Vitamin E is also in nut butters. It's in the salmon that chef is cooking today. So just because you can't eat greens doesn't mean that you can't get all the nutrition that are in greens. Just eat the rainbow. I always say that. Each color gives you a different phytonutrient profile, but also gives you a variety of the B's and all of the other vitamins. But put pumpkin on the list there.
If West Side Story had, what is it, the Jets and the carotenoids, I think that's
The sharks.
the carotenoids. At least in my head, that would make a cool t-shirt, the carotenoids. So as I was saying, these are potatoes that I peeled. Why is it, Mary Eve, I have a question. Why is it that when we peel the potatoes, if we're gonna blend it, say in a blender, just blitz the heck out of it, is it necessary to peel the potatoes before they go in, say, a soup? They're gonna cook
It is. Yeah, it is if you're having problems with digestion, because even though you blend something, it's still going to have the fiber in it. And it's the fiber that sometimes can make people feel pretty sick, either in treatment or post-op. So unlike a carrot, because we talked about a carrot, you don't have to peel a carrot as much as a potato skin you really should peel, even if you're going to blend it and make it a soup. It doesn't go away. The other thing I love about Yukon Golds is they're so creamy. It feels like they have butter and cream in them, but they don't. So, and they were my Pop's favorite, my grandfather's.
Aw.
Well, you're in luck because we're gonna have butter and some fun.
I know you, I know you, chef. I know you.
Yeah, exactly.
You would be very proud.
But if it's somebody who can't tolerate fat, a Yukon Gold can give you that mouthfeel and that sensation of fat without adding a lot of fat.
100%, absolutely. Thyme, one of the things that has like a lemon flavor to it. If you have butcher's twine, you can have a couple inches of that and then tie this up. But for me, I just go ahead and pop it in and I'm going to remove them with a fork. I just want to then give up, all the flavor that they have on offer. I'll just shove those bad boys in. Lid goes on. I'm going to bring it to a simmer and then reduce it down after you see the steam kind of kicking out the top. I'm going to cook this for like 25 minutes or until everything's really softened out. Okay, so that is essentially to go out of the way. I'm going to put it on this flame right over here. And we are officially two items in, right? So the salmon, which is essentially well underway because we've done a dry brine. We have the soup, which is well underway because that's over the heat. What else do we have?
You're ready for salmon, and if you want to prep the thyme and lemon zest, and then the salmon's ready to be rinsed.
Things are flying. Things are flying.
Sarah.
I know. I've got the
Sarah, like this,
schedule ready to go.
She as if she wanted to go as a flight people, right? So you're just like flying people in like runway 843 on flight number 440. That's her. That's literally
Air
her.
traffic control.
Air traffic control. 3 points for Sarah. So as you can see, you can't see this sort of like dome of white seasoning. You can start to see it getting nice and wet. That's a great sign. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse this salmon in cold water and then pat it completely dry.
And while you do that, I'm going to ask Mary Eve another question.
Fantastic. Yeah.
All right, question for Mary Eve. Thank you for answering regarding alternatives to greens. You were giving interesting information about vitamins too. Can you give me some more information? With having no stomach and partial bowel resection, are there any vitamins and minerals I should be taking? I'm not getting much help from my doctor. She says I do not need anything extra other than a multivitamin.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you've had a total gastrectomy, even a partial gastrectomy, you're going to need B12. So B12 is fascinating. I love this science so much. When we eat something that has B12 in it, which is mainly animal, our stomachs produce this intrinsic factor. The intrinsic factor and the B12 get married. They go down the gut to the ileum, and then they're absorbed. If I don't have a stomach, or even if I have a partial stomach, I may lose the intrinsic factor. So I could be taking B12 by mouth, but I don't have the intrinsic factor. I don't have a partner. I can't get married. I can't get into my system. So I would encourage you to get your B12 level checked. And if it is low, it's a shot once a month. That's the main way you're going to get it. The other thing I worry about is iron. So iron needs an acidic environment to be absorbed. And it's actually the stomach acid and the iron go through the small bowel, the duodenum, and then they're absorbed. So you want to make sure that you're keeping track of what your iron level is doing. Those are the two that are the most important. But taking a multivitamin is safe, but those two you may need supplementation with. The other is vitamin D. Every single person should get their vitamin D level checked. We're learning more and more and more about health and vitamin D. And our bodies, amazing as they are, we make our own vitamin D from the sun. You don't get it through oral diet. So there's about 80% of us that are going to be vitamin D deficient because one, we use sunscreen or we're not out in the sun. So getting your vitamin level D check is really important. And if it's deficient, that may need to be a bigger supplement. That's not in a multivitamin. So those are the three that really should be evaluated: the B12, the D, and the iron.
Actually, I have a question. Now that you bring up a very good point. We have friends here who are farmers that farm grapes, and then they take those grapes and they make them into raisins. Now, like back in the day, you would take grapes and you would dry them on these huge iron slabs. And so grapes usually have iron, I'm sorry, raisins usually have iron, but grapes do not. But cast iron is one of those things that's still very much in vogue along with sourdough bread. I know that if you cook on cast iron, you can get a little bit more iron in your diet. Is that something you would recommend, or there's any sort of cautionary tales that you have about cooking with cast iron?
I love cast iron. And so, yes, if you like that, my husband has a problem with it because you don't wash it, you just wipe it out, and that freaks him out. And I'm like, don't mess with my seasoned cast irons, dude. Like, just wipe it out. So yeah, if that's something you enjoy, yeah, you get a little bit from it. But don't put it through the dishwasher because that's not the thing you should do, and don't scrub it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I love it.
Do you use cast iron, Chef?
I do use cast iron, but I do, this is an interesting thing, is depending upon if it's really dirty, I will scrub it out with soap and water, and that does not take off that lovely patina nonstick side. If it's seasoned well, just a little soap and water is gonna be fine. And then I dry it super well, and then I put it in the oven. When I use cast iron, I use it a lot really starting in the oven, because cast iron is not a very good, it doesn't heat up evenly like, say, a regular saute pan or aluminum pan would heat up. So I put it in the oven at a really nice high temperature, then I'll transfer it to the stovetop. And that bad boy stays hot for a really long time. I mean, sometimes when we go to like potlucks, like a Le Creuset or a different piece of cast iron, you put it in the oven where it's just barely warm, you put your food in there, and by the time you get to the party, it's still really warm. Just put it right there on the potluck table. It's just a good way of saving, the host for your next Thanksgiving or party meal a little bit of space.
And it's
Yeah,
pretty.
And it's pretty.
it's pretty. So literally I store my cast iron in my oven. And so like last night I did stuffed squash blossoms.
Okay.
So I started the oven at 425 with my cast iron in there, stuffed my squash blossoms, threw them in the cast iron. Magic. Cast iron is magic.
So you're saying at the end of this beautiful demo today, you'll be giving away a piece of hand-signed cast iron, that's what I'm hearing. Okay, no, not really. So what I've done in here is, you saw me rinse off the salmon, the seasoning. You did not see me put any more salt on it, right? Because the salt's already in the salmon. Everything's already rinsed off. And all I've done is taken a little bit of thyme, some fresh thyme, chop that up, and some lemon zest. Now, the story of perfectly cooked salmon is actually pretty old. It started back after I was on Food Network. And what had happened is my mom was very proud that I was on television. I had my own TV show on Discovery Health and Fit TV called A Lion in the Kitchen. And I was back in Arlington, Virginia, visiting my parents. And what had happened is I was going to make my parents this lovely piece of salmon as I'm gesturing these fingers with lemon and thyme. It's totally fine. And I had it ready. The pan was nice and hot. I got the whole thing going. I put the salmon in the pan, and yet there was a knock at the door. My mom was like, "Oh my gosh, it's our neighbor. You have to say hi to them." And I really panicked. It was in that moment of panic that genius happened. So just because you think something crazy bad is about to happen, chances are it's one of the coolest things that will ever happen in your entire life. So hold that as part of your truth, because anything is possible. And when you see this method, again, that just was completely by mistake, there was a pretty good genius in it. So I have this over pretty high heat. This is a pan, just an aluminum pan. It's not a nonstick. It's just a regular old pan if you worked in restaurants, it's just an aluminum pan, okay? There is a lid element to this. This lid does not normally go with that pan. Totally fine, as long as it fits pretty snug. This is part of the genius also, okay? I'm gonna give my hands a quick little rinse right in here. That's all it took. It's a wild salmon. I do like wild salmon if at all possible. If you're concerned about salmon not being cooked enough, what I would do is go to the grocery store and you can get a salmon from the freezer section, like the deep freeze section. Let it thaw overnight in your refrigerator. That's the proper way to do it. That's the way we do it in restaurants. And you can work forward from there, okay? So
wild caught salmon has better health properties than other forms. So when they're wild, they're eating a variety of different food. And so it actually has more omega-3 in it than if it was farm raised. So if you can afford to buy wild caught domestic, that's really the path you want to go. And when you're getting frozen, you really want to look to see, turn it around. Don't look where it was processed, but where the origin of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you get this beautiful orange color from the crustaceans that the salmon eats. You know, they spend their youth up in the rivers, the streams, freshwater streams and rivers. They spend the rest of their life out in the ocean until they come back to spawn. And then they're caught right before they go back up into the fresh streams and rivers, right on the outside. Sarah and I were lucky enough to be able to go up into Alaska and see that whole process happen. And it was pretty amazing. Okay, question?
I do have a question for Mary, but I'll let you get this going.
Okay.
Talk through the method and then I will throw it out to Mary Eve.
So this whole time, this pan has been heating over high heat. I am not panicked whatsoever. I have a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm gonna put some of that in there, not too much. I can start to see it kind of bubble up a little bit. The butter is the key. All right, the butter's gonna go in, it's gonna smoke. That is a good thing. I'm still not panicking. I'm as cool as a cucumber. The butter is starting to turn brown. It's starting to smoke. Not worried about it. I'm gonna put this flesh side down. Right? There we go. So
Alexa.
imagine me and my parents'
Alexa.
house.
1 minute.
I just put the salmon inside that hot pan. I look at my mom, she's like, she's here, she's not gonna stay for long. This is gonna stay in that hot pan over the high heat for 1 minute. It's not going to stick, I can guarantee it, okay? It's a stick pan, it's not a non-stick pan. We have two things going for us. We have a very hot pan, we have a thin layer of oil, but we also have that thyme and that lemon zest. That's gonna keep that salmon from sticking. After 1 minute, I'm gonna flip the salmon skin side down for 30 seconds with the heat. After that, I'm gonna cover it with a lid, remove it completely from the heat, and we're gonna let it sail. The purpose of that is you have high heat to sear it, we're gonna flip it, and as the heat goes down and down and down and down off the heat, it's gonna come out perfectly medium rare medium without being worried about overheating or overcooking. It's genius, and it's a collision of insanity, a neighbor, and a proud mom. Right?
Alexa.
So that was 1 minute. It's not sticking.
Oh, I have you right here.
Okay. It's clearly not sticking. All right, I'm gonna flip it.
Alexa, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Yeah. Isn't that out of the way? I usually talk a lot. I run around, I do multiple things. This is the moment just to show you how cool, calm, and collected I am. I'm the youngest of three boys, I talk a lot, but this is the moment where you just realize that 80 to 85% of all seafood consumed in America is consumed in restaurants. Americans don't feel very confident about cooking seafood in their kitchen.
Alexa, stop.
Watch this. Lid goes on. Heat is turned off.
And how long do we let it sit there?
I'm gonna let it sit for 15 minutes.
Alexa?
Yeah.
15-minute timer. Okay, perfect.
Right? It's still hot. It's still cooking. I can hear it sputtering. There's a couple reasons why your kitchen may smell like fish. Okay. If when you get your fish home, it has a slight smell to it, it's not a big issue. What you would want to do is rinse your salmon off with cold water, pat it dry. That usually takes care of the smell completely. And then we'll move forward. Okay. Or overcooking. Overcooking will always make your kitchen smell like fish.
I got a question for Mary Eve.
Okay. Right.
Why don't you set up your next thing.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Next thing is Caesar salad, guys. Okay,
Okay.
but question from Mary.
Question for Mary Eve. Some of us do not absorb calcium well, so we have bone loss. What foods are good to add in that aren't dairy based? We know we need to take a good calcium citrate supplement, but any food suggestions for calcium would be helpful.
Oh, great question. Yeah, so calcium citrate is the form you want to take. Men about 1,000 milligrams a day, women between 1,000 and 1,200, but you can't take all of that as a supplement. We don't think that that's the best health property overall. So getting half from your diet, so 600 or so milligrams. And if you don't do well with dairy, I'm thinking it's the lactose that's in it. So doing lactose-free things can work. Lactose-free yogurt, lactose-free cottage cheese, lactose-free milk. All of those are good ideas for getting calcium in. I talked about the leafy greens. There's also calcium in that, but not spinach. So spinach calcium comes with oxalate, which will bind, and so the calcium is not as readily available to the body. But the other leafy greens are a good source of calcium. So I would look into lactose-free dairy is probably the best thing. And when you're looking at a label, the guidelines do not make calcium part of a food label as the milligrams overall. But if you look at the percentage, it'll say calcium 30%. That's based on 1,000 milligrams. That's 300 milligrams. So most people, if they do 1 to 2 servings of dairy a day, and then they can take a supplement, you're going to meet your mark for calcium every day.
Done. Citrus, another good thing to have around. Yeah. This is a real deal Caesar dressing. It is changed slightly. There usually is a bit of raw garlic in there. If you're a provider, you can make this without the garlic and then add the garlic to the side. It's completely up to you. But I think Mary Eve and I have talked extensively on garlic and onions and things that probably wouldn't help the healing process of the GI tract. So Caesar dressing or Caesar salad was actually invented by a gentleman from Italy who had moved to Mexico. So that's where the Jeopardy final question is really going to come in handy for those of you thinking about doing that in the future. So it's a pretty assertive dressing. I usually use not raw, but anchovies in those little containers with oil. But the cool thing is you don't have to do that anymore because anchovy paste comes in these little tubes. Just give it a little squirt.
Oh, Mary Eve's giving you 2 thumbs up for that.
A little dab of beer.
I have it in my fridge.
Woo!
I mean, it lasts forever, yeah, and you can also, it doesn't make a mess. When you pull the anchovies out, I like to chop them and then I like to sort of smush them into a paste. This is already a paste, okay, so this stays in the fridge. We also have a little bit of mayonnaise, Dijon mustard, Worcestershire, which actually has anchovies in it also, and then a punch of lemon juice, and of course, the garlic that I've left out, and pepper. There's a lot of sodium in this already. I think we're good to go. And then I think I mentioned the Dijon. So there's a lot of flavor in this already. And then we'll sort of whisk it and taste it. When you taste any sort of dressing, try not to just taste it with your finger, unless you're eating finger salad. Unless you happen to have a bunch of fingers around in your refrigerator. Possible.
Ew.
Yeah, I know, right? Not likely, possible. Okay, that's a different show. That's the after-hours show. But it's a pretty assertive dressing. Any sort of dressing you make, you want to taste it with whatever you're dressing. So if this were a sauce that were just for crudité, I would take a carrot and I would dip it through the sauce and then eat it with that. But if you do it just with your finger, it's not really giving you an idea of what that would taste like with the food that it's being dressed for. Okay. I mean, this could not be more simple. This Caesar salad, I mean, it's really, really easy. I've already just used this little whisk. Whatever type of greens you would like to use, Mary Eve, let me know. I have these baby romaine leaf lettuce guys. I know that perhaps there are certain greens that you would want us to steer away from. Any suggestions on other types of greens other than this baby romaine that might work better perhaps for this Caesar salad?
Yeah, anything soft, bib or butter, anything is soft. So when I say soft, if physically it feels soft, it's going to be easier to digest than something that has a lot of texture to it.
Okay, got it. So would this romaine be sort of on the cusp of being firm and or still considered soft?
Yeah, so if you really wanted to make a romaine soft, you would use like the inner sides and then really cut the bottoms off of it off and the tops of it off and use the middle part of it.
Okay,
Mm.
gotcha.
But you have baby guys there, so I'm thinking they're pretty tender.
Yeah, they're nice.
It's like spinach, right? You think of baby spinach and then you think of the big leaves of
Yeah.
spinach. Like the baby spinach is going to be easier to tolerate than the big leaves.
You know, thank goodness, as a chef, and I was a waiter for like 12, 14 years. I do remember the time when I first moved to LA when I was 27, a long time ago, when those deconstructed salads, you remember those? It was like, they would take a whole salad, they would shove it in a tube, and then tableside, they would pull the tube off, and you would like poke it, and the whole thing would fall down. I'm just so glad that a salad looks like a salad, yeah? So I have my salad off to the side. Let me give my hands a quick rinse, really fast. There's a reason why I use my hand to dress this salad, really in all salads rather than tongs. I find that when you're using a tong, yeah, I mean, it'll keep your hands clean, but this is very aggressive to me. This salad doesn't owe me money. It didn't say anything bad about my parents. So this is one of those things I don't care much for. What I like to do is put the dressing in the bottom and then tilt the bowl and then just let the leaves or whatever you have in here sort of dress themselves, okay? We have a really lovely aged Parmigiano Reggiano, which is wonderful. You can use a vegetable peeler if you would like to make it really sexy night. Because those big peels are something that's really wonderful to see.
And it isn't Parmesan lactose, is it lactose free or is it a lower lactose?
It's low, it's low lactose. So
Yeah.
any really hard cheese is going to be lower in lactose than a softer cheese.
That's right. So any sort of aged cheese is I mean, it's really buttery. I always recommend getting these big blocks and then wrapping them tightly in plastic film each and every time. It'll last a long time. The little tubs, they look convenient. The little tubs of pre-grated Parmesan. They remind me of Pizza Hut. Nothing wrong with Pizza Hut pizza, but I think that anything you can shake and keep on a table for weeks on end, I just don't want that. I think there's something really lovely about the butteriness and the creaminess of, you know, this freshly ground grated cheese. Also, when I'm grating cheese, I don't press super hard either. I'm doing it really lightly. So I can get these really like ethereal, angelic type curls in here.
Yep.
For those of you that have your box grater that's on its way out, I highly recommend this microplane grater. It's the same company that makes this, which is a microplane, because of this. Badonk, what? Easy cleaning, stop it.
What?
Mary E. Brown, stop it. Okay,
She's in shock.
yeah, so that's a really good thing to have.
We have comment from
Mind blown.
I know,
Mind blown.
right? It's pretty easy. And it's
Game
nice and
changer.
short. Nice and short.
DDF program says, as a TG patient myself, I have never had issues with Parmesan cheese. Ricotta, on the other hand, ha ha ha.
That's right. Ricotta is pretty darn soft, right? It's really delicious though. So I'm gonna keep this, what do you think, like this, and then serve the salmon over top? That doesn't sound so bad. You could just make this salad, have it be, you know,
Alexa,
something that's really
how
lovely.
much time?
You can make the salmon, serve it by itself. I understand that. You know, when I go out to restaurants and there's like 3 to 4 different dishes in front of me, unless they're smaller portions, I can get really overwhelmed. It makes my desire to want to eat maybe a little bit less than it would be if I'm giving courses on the smaller side every time. So I'm gonna set this to the side and we'll plate that salmon beautifully. How much time do we have left on the salmon?
5 minutes.
Okay, so we're 5 minutes into the 15 minutes on that salmon. Again, it's still cooking. It's not over the heat. I can touch it with my fingers. It's warm, don't get me wrong, but it's very gently cooking that salmon. Something I really almost never recommend, to be honest with you, is grilled salmon. And if you grill it, keep one side with heat and one side without the heat. If it's too much heat for fatty fish like that, that's when you get that white, it's called albumin. It's that weird like egg white albumin looking stuff. And what you're having is you're squeezing the moisture, the protein of the salmon is squeezing, all that white yummy stuff gets squished out. This does not have that. We pre-seasoned it, we did not overcook it, we did not kill it twice. Okay, and it's amazingly textured. How about that soup? How about that soup? It's been cooking along, doing its own thing. All right, this is what's happening here. Looks good. I'm gonna bring it over.
It's good.
All right. The best way to see if anything is done, cooking or cooked properly is with a fork, not a knife. If the tines of a fork go through it easily, that's a really good thing. A knife is so sharp, it'll go through a vegetable that isn't even properly cooked. So always use the tines of a fork to really understand and make sure it's cooked through, okay? So this thyme, that's easy, pull the whole thing out. Just in case you're wondering, I'm not just throwing things on the ground. I'm not just, there is a bowl for compost. I just want to let you know that I'm still respecting this household, okay? It has seasoning in it, it has salt, has pepper, it has that thyme. It has the vegetable stock, which has seasoning in it. It has the fennel, which makes it nice and sweet. I love the flavor. And the potato, which is gonna thicken it up, but there's enough liquid in here to where it's not gonna get starchy, like gloppy, like if you overwork mashed potatoes for a holiday, okay? You could use Mary E. Brown's favorite tool, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's an orchid. No, it's not an orchid. It is.
No, my immersion blender, dude.
Immersion blender, that's right. You could use Mary Eve's immersion blender, leave off to share it, or you can get your own, that's completely up to you. Or you can use a blender, okay?
Are you adding a few things before you blend it?
Yeah, for sure. To make your dad super happy, we're gonna add a few things, okay? We're gonna add Pop's butter. Okay, that would make a great cookbook, actually. Pop's butter. Everything has to have butter in it. I do 4 tablespoons. You can do 3, 2, 1, whatever you want to do. Mary Eve Brown is exactly correct because the type of potato we're using already has this lovely creamy texture. It just depends if you want a little butter on top of that. I also like sour cream. Why not? Sour cream. I'm just thinking like potato, cut it open, butter, sour cream. That sounds pretty good. Dill, we're gonna add dill in just a bit. A nice dollop of sour cream goes in there. That is for the chef. I'm not gonna do it in front of you, but I'm definitely not gonna wash that. Okay, please don't be wasteful. We're not animals, okay? And then with this, I would put it in the blender, blend it until it's nice and smooth. You can actually just put that in the fridge. I mean, let it cool first, put it in the fridge. I did make some ahead of time so that I have a blender for other things. This is my soup. It's still warm. I'm gonna plate this up, okay? I'm gonna plate it up with a fancy chef. I may have gotten this at Le Cordon Bleu. You've probably never seen one of these before. It's a 3rd cup measuring cup, okay? It's nice and creamy. It's warm. I don't have to worry about it. As little or as much as you wish. Let's go for 2/3. I mean, you always go back for more, right? You don't want to, the times of these massive helpings, I think, are done. And I think that's a good thing. You have this really lovely, elegant soup. I like cheddar, again, going back and finishing that thought process of a baked potato with the sour cream, the butter, the Pop's butter. I'm gonna keep this open just because I feel like now it's sort of a convertible. Yeah, I'm just gonna take the top back off, why not? And I'm gonna grate some cheddar on top of that. Lovely aged cheddar. That's gonna go down pretty well. And then some dill, which I love the flavor of, because why not? Dill and potato. And then, as Mary Eve and I discussed earlier with you guys, the flavor of fennel is really lovely. We kept these fronds. We didn't throw them out. And that's, I mean, that is
Gorgeous,
that is-
gorgeous,
that's just-
beautiful.
isn't that elegant?
Yeah.
This is a soup that, you know, if I had a restaurant,
Alexa.
this would be a soup that I would serve and it would cost me $1.10 per soup and you'd sell it for $11. I mean, these are things that we think about, but this is a really elegant, lovely soup. Texture's wonderful. You can keep it in the fridge. You probably freeze it as well, but keep it in the fridge and it'd be really lovely.
So I'll have you, because I just got your timer for the salmon.
Okay, very good.
So I'll have you show the salmon and then I have a question for Mary Eve.
Fantastic. So let's get that salmon. It's nice and hot. Let's get that salmon going, okay? I'm not gonna serve the whole salmon over a plate. I guess we do it like a family style, why not? But the Caesar salad is ready, yeah? If you want to do, I don't know, if you had some extra croutons on the side, why not? But that is a lovely Caesar. And there's something about a Caesar salad that I just find so delicious. And just so, I don't want to say refreshing, but it's a little bit goes a long way. And that's why I really like the Caesar. This salmon, it's still warm to the touch. If I wanted to, you could just peel the skin off. Yeah? You could give this to a very hungry, long-haired mini dachshund who's clearly over there waiting for me to give him some salmon. Okay?
Well, it's not crispy, right? You can
It's
still eat it,
not-
but it
it's
won't be
not
your,
crispy. That's correct. So what we'll have here, it's still really hot. It's very, can you see that?
yeah.
It's
Beautiful.
It's really buttery. It's cooked to a safe temperature. It doesn't stink. I mean, dare I say that, is that a word that we all use? It
Yeah.
doesn't smell like fish, the kitchen doesn't smell bad. The lid keeps that smell of fish in the pan. If you have the lid off, it might smell a little bit, but it doesn't at all. Okay, so we have the salmon, I'm just gonna pick it apart. You know why? Because my hands are clean, and I'm a chef, and I was a medical technician, and I wash my hands, right? But look at that, it is just so buttery. I think this whole meal is about pop pop, to be honest with you. I just think this is a really wonderful thing. Again, elegant,
It's so pretty.
simple, it happened in real time. Give my hands another rinse.
Why don't you set up your smoothie and
Fantastic.
what's in it? And as you blend, Mary Eve can answer the question.
That sounds wonderful. Okay, so the setup of the smoothie is happening over here. This is, I guess it's all over. Okay, great. So. Frozen banana, yeah, frozen banana, we have a little bit of whole fat yogurt. I also have some organic full fat coconut milk. And then the spices, it's like a chai spice, so it's like cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, is that what's in there?
Yeah,
Which is fantastic. If you're like me and you run on caffeine, literally run on caffeine, you can make a dirty chai smoothie. And if you want to hit with protein powder, you can go ahead and do that as well. I'm gonna add some ice. Even though the banana is frozen, I'm gonna add some ice too to get some really good, like thick texture in there.
so let me read the question and then you can blend.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, for Mary Eve. This is such a great program. I appreciate this demo that shows how to make a few dishes in a short time. So here's my question. I'm a young woman, 28 years old with bad genetics. I had major gastric surgery 5 years ago. Since then, I just decided food does not like me. I eat very little and avoid lots of foods. That has worked for me. I am cancer-free and went to medical school. I'm now starting my OBGYN residency and I'm very worried about how I can feel my best with such a demanding schedule. I get not eating will not be a plan.
Yeah, so I think about this question a lot of different ways, right? So if I've had, gastric resection and food's not my friend, it can work for a period of time, but then maybe I get busy in my job, I get busy raising a family, all the things that can happen in life, and you need to fuel your body. So I would suggest is try to carry snacks and snacks that make a difference, that are going to have protein and nutrients in them, but don't need refrigeration. So I kind of think of like nut butter kinds of things. Nut butters are really easy to digest. Most people, even with a total gastrectomy, can do some peanut butter or some almond butter. I also like, and you can Google this, and Chef may have some recipes for it, but like energy bites. So they're normally like a nut butter based, and then they might have some protein powder in them, and they can be in a pocket, they can be in a purse. I also like nutrition drinks, like Chef is making a smoothie, so you can get like an insulated cup and then make a good smoothie. I would put turmeric in that too, Chef, just that's an aside. Run and get your turmeric. Anyways, that could be something that you kind of carry along with you. Protein bars, I think protein bars can work. Hard-boiled eggs. I mean, anything that's going to have protein and you can kind of store, and then eat something every couple of hours. That's going to be a better way to move through your day and keep up with your nutrition, which is going to keep up with your energy and be able to do all the things that you want to do in your life. Thanks for the turmeric, Chef.
Turmeric. The word "to" is in turmeric. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's true. All right, so we have this lovely smoothie. And I'm glad we have.
Oh, the other chef, the other thing I wanted to say about your meals today, if I don't have an appetite, if it looks pretty, I'm going to have a better emotional connection to that. I might have a better appetite with it. The other thing you said, which is really huge, if I don't want to eat, I can't sit down to a big thing of something. It's going to be like, not so much.
Yeah.
But if it's smaller and it's pretty, I'm going to have more success probably with eating that. So those are two huge points for people with gastric cancer.
Excellent. No, it's true. I just find that it can be really off-putting if it's too much food. These are small servings. They're elegant. You don't have to eat them all at one time. But these are only three things. These are only three things. We have a fourth thing to make.
You have one other thing and you have a question about salmon.
Okay, very good. So what should we do first?
Let me throw out this question while you
first?
get set up.
Fantastic.
Question for Chef Nathan. I'm single and I'm learning how to cook different dishes. How do you pick out the best salmon?
Okay, great question. So salmon is one of those things when you see it, you can tell it's been sort of like mishandled. It looks really funky. Sometimes the skin is torn. You want it to be just a really pretty looking, just a really pretty looking uniform salmon. When you go to your fishmonger, there is no shame at all with saying, hey, I would like the one that's under the top one, because a lot of times, depending upon who your fishmonger is, they'll have the older salmon that they'll put first, right? So it's called FIFO. When you go to the grocery store, I'm the person that opens it up and looks at the date on, say, the half and half. And if you reach really far in there, sometimes it's 3 weeks younger in the back. So first in, first out. So it's okay to walk up and say, I want the salmon that's underneath the one that's on top. Show it to you. I want this much. May I smell it? That's another question. May I smell it? If it smells anything like ammonia or any sort of weirdness, by the time you get it home, it's kind of a pain in the butt to bring it back. So nice and firm, uniform, no tears. Ask for what you want. And actually, you sort of garner a little bit of respect from the fishmonger because they know that you know what you're looking for. When you get it home, put that bad boy on ice. Ice, okay? So what I do is I'll put it in the plastic container, ice on the bottom. I'll put the salmon, which is still in that bag, in the middle, and I'll put more ice on top. And it goes in the fridge. Ice, ice, ice. Ice, ice. I almost went there. Ice, baby. Okay. I'm already there. Yeah, you want to ice it or use it that night. You want to put it in ice, 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 okay? So great question. Thank you very much for that. And just don't overcook it. That's really the main thing. I would say the same thing if it was chicken or beef or anything. Just don't overcook it, right? This next thing is a decaf vanilla latte panna cotta, or for those of you that want a little bit of caffeine, a regular caffeinated, highly caffeinated decaf latte panna cotta, okay? So this is a really easy, if you like that creamy custard texture, but don't want to have to worry about tempering, using egg yolks or any of that stuff, this is super duper easy, okay? And really, chances are you have most of these ingredients in your fridge already, right? So in this bowl, I'm just using a glass bowl so you can see it. A little bit of water, just regular tap water. And this is gelatin, okay? A little bit of gelatin, and I'm gonna do what's called blooming the gelatin. You give it a stir like that, we would let it sit for 5 minutes. We don't have 5 minutes right now, but I made some ahead of time. You would let it bloom. It becomes firm like a little rubber ball. It only takes 5 minutes, okay? Then, what you would do, set that aside. Go ahead and take heavy whipping cream. This is a diet show, by the way. This is all diet show. This is the heavy.
They need their calories. They need their calories,
That's
chef.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So a cup of heavy whipping cream. Sugar's up to you. I have maybe a teaspoon, a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of sugar, whatever sort of thing you want. If you drink your coffee black, you may not need any sugar. This is just 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. It serves 4, so that's a teaspoon of sugar per portion. But again, if you like that coffee flavor, you drink your coffee black, you don't have to put any sugar in, okay? So I'm gonna put this over medium heat, and I'll give this a stir. A couple of the things go in this. Half and half goes in this, but I'm not adding half and half to the heavy cream. Half and half can split. If you've ever tried to heat up milk or half and half, and it comes to a simmer, sometimes it starts to curdle and just all the proteins, they denature and it all just looks like a mess and you throw it away and it's a bummer. Half and half doesn't have as much fat as heavy whipping cream, so you can actually bring this to just barely a simmer, the heavy cream. Then we're gonna add the half and half later on. Then I'm gonna pour it in little containers, put it in the fridge, and a couple hours later, you've got dessert. It's actually really easy, okay?
How many hours does it take to set up?
To set, well, I mean, if you have if you have a little tiny container, 4 hours maybe, but you can make it ahead of time. And then just keep it in the fridge for a couple of days. Put some whipped cream, some fresh berries, whatever you want on top of that, okay?
While you're waiting for that to heat up,
Yeah,
a message.
from outer space.
Debbie's Dream
Oh, okay.
Foundation, from all of us.
Oh,
If you have registered for this demo, type in the word register in the comments and then keep an eye out for something tasty in your inbox.
there we go. That's fantastic, yeah.
Something special is coming
Something a little special, but you have to type in register. To
and
get that-
be registered
And be registered,
so we can contact you.
yeah, for sure, right? I always like a little special treat. I always like, I don't even, we're not specifically sure what the special treat is, but it is nice to get a bonus. We
Well,
have,
somebody knows what it is.
somebody out there knows who it is. I think she has an orchid behind her. I don't know, maybe. So this is a little bit of half and half. This is gonna be weird for me to say out loud. It's a half a cup of half and half. That's a lot of halves, yeah? I don't know.
Oh, good. Loretta's typed in register.
Okay, perfect.
Nice, Loretta.
So this is it. This is all that it takes. Actually, I have a little bit of vanilla extract also. Yes, question.
Oh, no.
Okay, all good? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move forward with this. Okay, we're coming up on our time. This will eventually come to a simmer. I wanna make sure it's hot enough. See?
Yeah,
It's a
it
little
is
bit of
simmering.
steam, and that's fine. All that needs to be is hot enough to be able to melt the gelatin. That's it. Doesn't have to come to a boil or anything like that. So here is the gelatin. Okay, this is all mixed. I'm gonna add this to the gelatin, which is like a rubber ball right now. That goes in.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna stir this around. Little lardy-dardy-dar. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla extract to it. So it's like a little vanilla, it's like a vanilla
A vanilla latte.
latte. Why not? Single pump, single pump, single pump, single pump. Okay, good. Then I'm gonna stream this into the half and half. It's not so hot that it's gonna curdle it, but I do wanna make sure, for those of you that have tempered things before, I do wanna make sure it doesn't split. Gotta respect your ingredients, okay? That's that.
Thanks, Nancy. Nancy typed in register.
Oh, fantastic. And this is a shot of espresso, okay? That's gonna flavor it.
And I mean, you also could make this panna cotta without adding the
You could-
espresso.
You could,
right?
you could make this without the espresso for sure, and then add the espresso. You don't have to. You can make it without all sorts of things. Then, whatever little containers you have, just kind of sitting around willy-nilly. Doesn't have to be fancy. Okay, this is like a little, like an Italian, wine glass, white wine glass. And you would fill it up as small or as much as you wish. If you have a party tonight, know that you would make this by early afternoon. It'll be set. If you want to make it in a shallow bowl, you can totally do that. But I'm going to show you what the finished texture looks like.
Would you wrap those up in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge or?
That's a great question. You want to wait for it to cool a little bit before you wrap it in plastic film. And this is why. If it's still really hot and I wrap it with plastic film, that film keeps the steam in there and the top is kind of like a little bit wet. And I'm not really looking for that. You want to let it cool? What's up?
I was gonna say, if you put all the dishes
Oh,
up
yeah,
there,
of
we can
course.
see them really
Of
well.
course. You want to let it cool a little bit to where it's not steaming anymore, then you can wrap it and put it in the fridge. If you don't have anything that's stinky in your fridge, you can just leave it unwrapped like that, okay? So let me show you what the texture is, and then we'll do the final reveal, because there's a lot of stuff going on. This is sort of the creamy, dreamy texture of that. Can you see that? I mean, it is like a lovely, if you like creme brulee, it's actually softer than a creme brulee, which is really, really wonderful. We have Pop's Caesar salad and a lovely buttery salmon. We actually have a buttery fennel and potato soup that has a little bit of dill and some cheddar on top. And then we have this wonderful chai smoothie.
With turmeric.
With turmeric, maybe
Turmeric.
healthier with turmeric. We have a lot going on here. We made it with you. We made it together. We made it to the finish line together. You don't have to make these all at once. You can just, sort of like dip your toe in that and dip your toe in that. Any questions you have, feel free.
I do have a
to
question about
email
this panna cotta.
Yeah, talk about it.
Is it better to individually portion out or can it be in a large container?
That's really up to you. I feel being the youngest of 3 boys, I like my own, and I want it to be exactly the same as far as the amount. You can put it in a shallow bowl, and then put all sorts of things, berries and, whipped cream on the side. But it doesn't cleave the way a lot of, what is the Mexican dessert? It's the
Oh, the flan, like a flan?
It doesn't cleave like a flan. It's more custardy. It's more soft and like silky. So serving it might be a little bit messier. But I think if you're having for a dinner party, for example, you had like 6 people over, it would be, it'd be a portion like this. It'd be a little tiny portion. It's really elegant. It's not too much food. It's just something really nice to serve to your guests at the end of the meal, or if you're like me, at the very beginning of the meal. That's possible. So thank you, everyone. And again, those people in the future that are watching this in the future, because we're recording it now, for joining us. It means a lot to us that you would allow us to monopolize an hour of your day. Myself, Mary Eve Brown, Sarah, everybody in Florida, people in DC, we're all over there supporting you. And we feel that support because we hopefully will give you support back. I'm going to skedaddle off to the side because there are people that have made this possible, and those are our sponsors. So we'll see you guys next time.
And I want to,
Enjoy
and
your
Loretta says, thanks for all the great recipes and the information. Life can be hard and you really help.
One class.
Oh,
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much. I think, again, I couldn't do this without Mary J. Blige or Mary Eve. What's the 411? Those are our sponsors. We'll see you guys next time. Have a lovely weekend.
And
bye.
don't forget to type register if you are registered, and then you can get a special something in your inbox.
Register.
Thank you so much.